Hey y'all, Dawn with 7 Acres Homestead again today. I'm going to be doing my December garden update today. For those of you up in the northern states where you get a lot of snow and stuff, this may seem like a weird thing, but for those of us who live in Texas, gardening well into January is a real possibility for us, depending on what the weather does. Yes, it's a crapshoot. But as you'll see today, some things work and some things don't. So these are my peas, and we had a couple nights in a row where we got down just below freezing, and so I went ahead and put the row covers on. And I'm out here today taking the row covers off because we're going to be in the 50s at night and the upper 60s during the day for at least the next 5 or 6 days. So I want them to get as much sunshine as possible, so I'm removing these row covers because there's no chance of a frost. And I want to kind of show you guys, these peas are one of the things that I have been babying. I will put a link to the video where my granddaughter London and I planted these peas, and I got a late start on them because all of the starts that I tried to do this summer died because of the heat. So these got a late start, so I've really been trying to keep these going long enough to get some peas. And I'll show you guys, I don't know if you can see this on camera or not. Hopefully you can see how many pea pods are on some of these plants. And it's weird because you'll have a plant that doesn't have anything on it, and the very next plant will have all of this. So, being a fairly new gardener as far as fall gardens go, I'm not quite sure why that is. Like, here we go down here, we've got this little pea plant that just needs to come up. It's just pulling nutrients from the ground, and it's not really doing anything. So this one's going to come just right out of the ground, and it's going to be thrown right down on the ground in order to do a composting effect for the soil out here. But then, you know, this plant has a few peas. Here is another one that is just covered in pea pods and still covered in blooms that should create more pea pods as long as it doesn't freeze completely. Peas are pretty weather hardy. They can take some cool weather. They can't take the hot weather, but they can take the cool weather. So here's another plant right here that has a whole bunch. There's one over there. So I've got this whole 30-foot row of peas that we planted, and some of them didn't make it, but most of them did. And so they're doing really, really well right now. In fact, some of these are about ready for me to harvest. And what we don't eat, we of course will can or will freeze. So I'm going to go ahead and take the rest of the row covers off of these peas. So, as you can see, I went ahead and pulled the row covers off of the bed that has the turnips, and there are a few little beets in it. I've got a couple of yellow leaves here that I'm going to go ahead and pull those off. whenever you have a part of the plant that looks like it's dying or not doing very well, usually we will pull those off. And again, I throw these out on the dirt because it's compost that feeds the soil. But we'll go ahead and take these yellowing leaves off like this so that it's not pulling energy away from the rest of the plant trying to repair that bad leaf. But for the most part, all of these look pretty good. We had a video recently where we thinned some of these out, and the ones that we didn't thin out have just been growing like crazy, and they're starting to fill the bed completely up again, especially over on this far end down here. So it is about time to come thin these out again, and then yay, we get to have turnips and turnip greens for dinner again. So I'm actually real excited about that. Being a person who's not a fan of cooked greens, that's a little surprising. But, you know, when you're eating food out of your garden, it's a whole different story than stuff you get at the grocery store. It's just so much better. Found another yellow leaf. It tastes fresher. It has a different flavor to it than things you get in the grocery store. Probably because it's not treated with a bunch of chemicals and chemical fertilizers and herbicides and different things like that to make it grow bigger and better, and they can charge you more for it, but the taste and the value and the nutrition are not there. So and here we are. It's December 20th, I believe. Christmas Eve, I think, is on Sunday, and today is Thursday. So we're getting really close. And as you can see, this bed is just going like crazy. So this bed here is my broccoli. And again, I had the same issue with all of these that I tried to start during the summer. The heat was just way too much. No matter how much I watered them, they would dry out in a couple of hours, and the starts did not do very well. These were actually starts that I did manage to save, but they were pretty stunted when I first put them out here. So they have been growing the best that they can grow, and I don't usually have to cover these because broccoli tends to be frost hardy. But to be honest with you guys, with this being my first attempt at a fall and winter garden, if I get anything out of this, I'm going to be tickled pink. So the amount of broccoli I have out here right now is actually more than I thought I would end up with. So I'm really, really pleased with this. So this was a volunteer plant that I quite honestly don't remember what it is. I think it was a Brussels sprout, but it may have been a cabbage. So this is going to be surprise vegetables when we actually get it to growing where we can figure out what it is. And it's growing like crazy. Like it's growing pretty much better than anything else in this bucket. Here is my asparagus that now it is finally starting to see a little bit of yellowing in this wispy part of the plant. And I did not expect to harvest anything from this year. We knew that this is a 2-year process in the bucket. 3rd year we can plant it into a bed, and it will continue to spread because it's a root hardy plant, which means that during the winter months when it's not growing up here on the surface, the roots are growing and developing a network underneath. And honestly, what I've heard is that if you start it in a bed, you need to make sure your bed has some borders because it will eventually outgrow your bed and just be prolific and take over your garden, which is what we're hoping. So we don't plan to harvest anything out of this asparagus until about year 3. So this is toward the end of year 1. These tomatoes here have died. And we moved some of our tomatoes and peppers, the really best, most prolific plants, into the greenhouse to get them out of the freezing weather. These were smaller plants. They weren't really producing that much at that point, so we went ahead and left these out. And of course, the freeze that we have gotten a couple of times did kill these off. Same over here. A couple of these over here were pepper plants, bell peppers. And same deal. I've already pulled those out of the ground and thrown the leaves and stuff over to the pigs. But we had some bell peppers and stuff over here that the freeze just immediately killed them off the first time it got down below about 30 degrees. Hi, Stella. Baby, are you having fun testing out the garden? What you doing, pretty girl? Stella is our little farm cat, and she is gorgeous, aren't you, baby? Stella. Now she got to come rub my leg. So this is an update on our onion and garlic bed. First year to grow onions over the winter, and we have everything covered in hay to mulch it and keep it warm over the cold weather. And then in the spring, when it's warm enough, we will pull all of that hay out, and especially with the onions, we're going to round the tops of those off where the tops can sit above the soil, where they will start to grow bigger. So these tops on the garlic may die off over the winter, but in the spring, as those roots have continued to grow, those sprouts will come back up in the spring. Okay, so I've got the tent off the top of my big long bed here, and this one still has carrots growing. They seem to be doing okay. We're going to let these run all through the winter and spring, and hopefully by sometime in the summer, and it may be the end of summer, some of these will be ready to harvest, and we'll actually end up with some carrots. This little batch right here in the middle seems to have done better than these down here on this end. Now these rows here, these are my cabbages, and they have not grown super fast. They are supposed to be colder weather plants, so they should be used to not having as much sun as some of the other plants, and they're just pretty slow growing. So we'll see if this turns out to be some heads of cabbage or not. Now, these 3 rows down here, as much as they look like the cabbage, they're actually Brussels sprouts, which in my brain, Brussels sprouts are tiny cabbages anyway. So they're, they're going to look about the same, I guess. They're not doing quite as well. Again, the ones toward the middle of the bed seem to be doing the best for some weird reason. Maybe because those stay warmer when it gets cold outside. I'm not really sure. Down at the very end here, we have these little sprouts. And these little sprouts are celery seeds that we planted in here. And my understanding is celery takes a while. So, again, it is supposed to be frost hardy, but I like to put the top over this bed just to baby these as much as I can throughout the winter. Okay, guys, so now we are in here in the greenhouse, and I haven't really paid too much attention to these tomato plants in here. Obviously, they didn't die off like the other ones did, but they are in need of some attention. So I am going to come in here today and start picking off these leaves and limbs that are not really doing anything or producing anything. I don't know how well you can see in here, but these plants have multiple tomatoes actually growing on them. You see right there how many are on that spot. And I took the long stems that were growing a lot and kind of piled them up on top, and now I'm beginning to wonder if that was a mistake. This one also had quite a few tomatoes still going on it, and so, gosh, there's even still some blooms on there. So I wanted to make sure I kept this one going as long as I could, and if you look over on the other side over here, you can see just tomatoes. Whether or not those will actually turn into nice ripe red tomatoes, I don't know. We'll have to see because they don't get as much sun. This is one of the bell pepper plants that we brought in here, and again, we got some little bell peppers just all over it, and it seems to be doing fine in here. This one was another one that it wasn't super huge. It didn't get very big, but it had a bunch of blooms and little tiny bell peppers. Like here's one here that's starting to develop from a bloom, and so I have already pulled all of the big bell peppers off of this, so we'll see if it grows any more over the winter. This is my little lemon tree, and with the winter being here, some of the leaves have started to fall off, but it's a tree, and trees do that. Same with the fig. We've got one fig here. We've kept the other one outside in the garden, and they both have lost their leaves. But again, they are trees, and trees do that so that the roots can grow over the winter. So I have no doubt in my mind that this little guy will pop up in the spring and start regrowing leaves and continue to grow externally as well. These are celery that are regrows from the bottom of a celery stalk from the grocery store. And this has been an experiment to see if these would actually regrow celery. And my understanding is it takes a while, but as you can see, there's little celery stalks starting to grow up through these. It's taking a while, but they are growing. Now, these three here, these are avocado pits that I started also from grocery store avocados. And I guess they didn't have a agent on them to stop it from rooting, because obviously it has rooted and they have started to grow. In fact, these bigger ones here, they already have roots coming out the bottom, so they're ready to put into a bigger pot so that they can get even bigger. Now, the big question will be, will they produce fruit? And we don't know. We do not know until they get big, and we'll see if they produce fruit or not. This little guy I thought was dead. And it had fallen over, the pot had fallen over by the food storage building, and I didn't pay too much attention to it. And then one day I noticed it had leaves coming out of it, and I picked it up, and this thing was growing straight up that way toward the sun, where it had fallen over on this side. So I picked it up and brushed it off and put it in here with the others, and now it just seems to be growing. So it's doing really well. Over here I have my aloe vera. And one of the, boy, something's been eating on this. Let's take a look at what this is. Now that had to have happened before I put it in here, because I don't know of too much bug issues in here. Of course, I do see a couple of ants down there. And we do have a problem with fire ants. So that may be the ants eating this. Oh yeah. Can y'all see that? Those are fire ants. So I'm glad I didn't stick my hand in there, because the term fire ants is not because they're red like a fire. They're little black ants. But the term is that they get on you in about a half a second, and before you know it, your skin is on fire. So I'm going to have to get rid of the ants in this thing, or this aloe vera is not going to make it. So this is our janky little cheapo greenhouse that we put up. And this thing is 10 feet wide and 20 feet long. And these things do not last through any type of weather. So in order to keep this thing standing up and not collapsing on us, we have built this brace in the middle with some very, very heavy-duty wooden braces to support that top so that it doesn't collapse on us. We also, on the corners, have put these T-posts into the ground, and as you can see, the posts on the side posts on the greenhouse are attached to the T-posts with zip ties. That also keeps the big wind from coming through and blowing it over, which is another thing that these cheap greenhouses tend to do. So I am not, I'll put a link to this in Amazon just in case you guys want to look at it. But I'll be honest with you, I don't completely recommend these unless it is just the only thing you can afford. And when we bought these, that was the only thing we could afford. And so, that being said, just expect that if you buy one of these, that you are going to have to do some due diligence to keep it in one piece. And I'm about to show you what happened to the last one. So this is what these cheap greenhouses tend to do. This actually was the first year for this one to be up and outside. I did have to cut down the middle of that plastic to get in there and get some of my stuff out because the entire top had collapsed. But as you can see, the framework there, that's what these do. They are top heavy, and this particular one didn't blow away in the wind because we did have these T-posts out here holding it still. And that's the only reason it didn't blow away. But we did not have the infrastructure in the middle to keep the top from collapsing, and so that is exactly what happened. So again, if you buy these because they are more reasonably priced and you just feel like you need something, definitely expect to come out and do some work to the inside to keep them from collapsing. This one that I showed you a minute ago that we're using right now is the fourth one we've put up, and all three of the other ones have ended up like this. So we learned a hard lesson there. Okay, y'all, so that is the December garden update. Thanks for hanging out with me in the garden today. I'm going to get out there in the greenhouse and kind of tend to those tomato plants and see if I can help them out a little bit. And again, I will come back in January and let you know if there's anything left, and if it is, how's it doing, and if we harvested anything, I'll let you know how we did with that as well. And we will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.